My name is Madison, and at 27, I never imagined my biggest achievement would become a battleground. The apartment I scraped and saved for, working double shifts and weekends, now stands at the center of family warfare. My brother Tyler has always been the black hole of family resources, but I thought my own property would be safe. I was wrong. When my parents showed up unannounced, demanding I sell my home to bail him out again, something inside me finally snapped. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit like and subscribe to support my journey to healing. Growing up in Westfield, a middle-class suburban neighborhood in Connecticut, I always sensed the different standards applied to Tyler and me. Our modest split-level house had 4 bedrooms, but the allocation of space reflected our family hierarchy. Tyler had the largest bedroom despite being only 2 years older, while I made do with the smallest room next to the noisy bathroom. My parents, Rachel and Daniel, explained it away as him needing more space for his hobbies, but those hobbies seemed to change monthly. The pattern emerged early in our childhood. When Tyler received CS and DS on his report card, our parents would blame the teachers for not engaging him properly. When I brought home straight A's, it was expected rather than celebrated. My academic achievements became invisible, the assumed baseline for my existence, while Tyler received lavish praise for the most minimal efforts. By the time I reached middle school, I was accustomed to this imbalance, but still struggling to understand it. One particular memory stands out. In 7th grade, I won the regional science fair with a project on renewable energy, earning a small scholarship fund of $500 for future education. That same week, Tyler got suspended for skipping school. My achievement was acknowledged with a quick nod at dinner, overshadowed by hours of discussion about how the school system was failing my brother. The $500 that should have been mine somehow disappeared into the family finances, later revealed to have paid for a private tutor to help Tyler pass algebra. When I questioned this, my mother gently explained that family resources go where they are most needed. Even then, I recognized the injustice, but lacked the vocabulary to challenge it. Throughout high school, I doubled down on academics, joining every club and honor society available. Not just for college applications, but because these spaces became my refuge from home, where Tyler dominated every conversation with his latest crisis. His first car accident at 16 resulted in my parents taking out a second mortgage. His second accident at 17 meant I would need to find my own transportation to my after-school job. The one person who saw me clearly was my grandmother, Catherine. My mother's mother lived an hour away, and visits to her cozy farmhouse became my sanctuary. Unlike my parents, Grandma Catherine celebrated my achievements, keeping a special bulletin board in her kitchen covered with my academic certificates and newspaper clippings of school events I participated in. She was the one who encouraged me to open my own bank account at 15, something my parents discouraged as unnecessary. For 3 years, I deposited every dollar earned from babysitting, my weekend job at the local library, and summer work at the community pool. Grandma Catherine matched my savings dollar for dollar, our secret pact toward my future education. Her advice still echoes in my mind. You cannot change how your parents see you, Madison, but you can change how you see yourself. Stand firm in your worth, even when no one else recognizes it. I had just turned 18, preparing for college acceptance letters, when the first major betrayal occurred. My carefully accumulated college fund, nearly $20,000, including Grandma Catherine's contributions, vanished overnight. I discovered this while checking my account balance after receiving my first acceptance letter from State University. The confrontation that followed remains seared in my memory. My parents sat me down in our living room, the same space where they had celebrated Tyler's high school graduation, despite his barely passing grades. My father spoke first, his tone matter-of-fact. I know you are upset about the money, Madison, but your brother is in serious trouble. He owes some very dangerous people who would not hesitate to hurt him. My mother added, her eyes pleading. We had no choice. Family protects family. The money I had saved for 4 years, along with Grandma Catherine's loving contributions, had been withdrawn to pay off Tyler's gambling debts. My brother, then 20, had fallen in with the wrong crowd at the community college he had dropped out of after one semester. But I worked for that money, I argued, tears streaming down my face. And Grandma helped me save it for college. My father's face hardened. The account was in our names as well as yours. Legally, it was family money. We do not have to explain our decisions to you. I could have had a full year of tuition covered, I whispered. Your brother could have been killed, my mother countered, effectively ending the conversation. That night, I called Grandma Catherine. Sobbing. She was furious, but not surprised. 2 weeks later, she passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. The timing meant that in 1 month, I lost both my financial security and my strongest ally. The grief nearly crushed me, but somehow it also crystallized my determination. I would find a way forward without the support I had counted on. The summer after high school graduation was a blur of grief and recalibration. While my classmates prepared for their freshman year at various universities, I adjusted to a different path. Community college became my only option, and even that required working full-time to afford the tuition. I secured a position as a barista at a local coffee shop, working the opening shift from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. After classes from 2 to 8 p.m., I would pick up evening shifts at a nearby restaurant, serving tables until midnight. Sleep became a luxury, confined to the few hours between getting home and starting the cycle again. During my first semester, I met Stephanie in my English composition class. She noticed me falling asleep during a lecture and gently nudged me awake before the professor spotted me. After class, instead of judgment, she offered me a granola bar and her class notes. You look like you are running on fumes, she said simply. Something about her genuine concern broke through the walls I had been building. Over coffee that she insisted on buying, I shared fragments of my story. Stephanie, whose own parents had died in a car accident when she was 16, understood loss in a way few others could. She had been raised by her aunt, who taught her self-reliance while still providing emotional support. Our friendship became my lifeline. Stephanie worked part-time at the campus library and helped me secure a position there, replacing my exhausting restaurant job with quieter evening work that allowed me to study during slow periods. We became study partners, pushing each other through challenging courses. By maintaining a perfect GPA for 2 years at community college, I qualified for a transfer scholarship to State University. It covered only half the tuition, but represented a victory I had carved out entirely on my own. My parents attended my community college graduation ceremony, making appropriate noises about being proud. But conversation inevitably turned to Tyler and his latest job opportunity. The distance between us had grown from a crack to a chasm. I maintained obligatory holiday visits and occasional phone calls, but the emotional connection had withered. My parents rarely asked about my studies or work, while updates about Tyler dominated every interaction. I learned to smile, nod, and change the subject to neutral territory. At State University, I majored in marketing with a minor in digital media, recognizing the growing demand for these skills. Between classes, I worked in the university's public relations office, gaining practical experience that would later prove invaluable. Nights and weekends found me taking freelance social media management gigs, building a portfolio while supplementing my income. My junior year, I secured a competitive internship at a regional marketing firm. The position was unpaid, which meant adding another part-time job to cover expenses, but the investment paid off. By graduation, I had a job offer from the same firm, with a starting salary that exceeded my modest expectations. For 2 years, I lived in a tiny studio apartment with barely enough space for a bed and desk. The rent consumed nearly half my income, but I remained determined to save. Every month, I put aside what I could, sometimes as little as $50. Other times a few hundred when projects included bonuses. I continued my education through night courses, earning certificates in digital analytics and content strategy. My promotion to junior account manager came with a welcome salary increase. The timing aligned perfectly with my lease ending, and I began searching for a better living situation. When I found the one-bedroom apartment in a renovated historical building downtown, something clicked. The hardwood floors, exposed brick wall, and large windows overlooking a small park spoke to something deep inside me. This could be mine, I thought. A real home, not just a temporary shelter. The down payment required every dollar I had saved over 3 years, plus a small loan from Stephanie, who had become more sister than friend. The mortgage payments would be tight but manageable with careful budgeting. At 26, I became a homeowner, an achievement that represented not just financial stability, but emotional healing. This space, purchased entirely through my own efforts, symbolized the independence I had fought for since that devastating day I discovered my college fund gone. During these years of building my life, contact with my family had dwindled to occasional text messages and obligatory holiday calls. Updates about Tyler came secondhand, usually from my mother's worried voice on the phone. He had cycled through several jobs, relationships, and apartments. There were vague mentions of financial difficulties, but I deliberately avoided asking for details, protecting the boundaries I had established. The day I signed the mortgage papers, I sent my parents a photo of me holding the keys to my new apartment. My father replied with a thumbs-up emoji. My mother called the next day, asking if I had considered getting a roommate to help with expenses. Their reaction stung but no longer surprised me. I had learned to find validation within myself and my chosen family of friends who genuinely celebrated my successes. As I settled into my apartment, carefully decorating each room with intentionally chosen pieces, I began to feel a sense of peace I had not experienced since childhood visits to Grandma Catherine's farm. This place was mine, earned through perseverance and sacrifice. No one could take it from me. Or so I believed. The unexpected call from my mother came on a Tuesday evening in March. 6 months after I had moved into my apartment. I was preparing a presentation for a major client meeting the following day, my dining table covered with notes and my laptop open to multiple browser tabs. Madison, her voice carried that familiar tone of barely contained panic. We need to talk. It is a family emergency. My stomach instantly nodded. In our family, emergencies typically meant one thing: Tyler was in trouble again. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. What is going on? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She hesitated. It is complicated. Your father and I need to discuss it with you in person. I can meet you for coffee this weekend, I offered, already mentally rescheduling my Saturday plans with Stephanie. No, this cannot wait, my mother insisted. We need to see you tomorrow. The urgency raised immediate red flags. I explained about my important work presentation, suggesting Thursday instead. Madison, my mother's voice broke slightly. This is about your brother. He needs your help. The familiar weight settled on my shoulders. I is always about Tyler, I thought, but did not say. Instead, I held firm on Thursday, the earliest I could reasonably meet them. For the next 2 days, my phone buzzed constantly with texts and calls from both parents. Each message escalated in urgency and emotional manipulation. By Thursday morning, I had pieced together fragments of the situation. Tyler had accumulated substantial gambling debts. Again. But this time, according to my father's increasingly agitated voicemails, the people he owed money to had made threats. I expected them to suggest meeting at a restaurant or coffee shop. Instead, at 6 that evening, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see both my parents standing in the hallway, their expressions tense. I had not invited them to my apartment, had not even shared my exact address, only the general neighborhood. The boundary crossing sent a wave of unease through me. Opening the door, I forced a smile. Mom, Dad, I did not expect you to come here. How did you find my address? My father brushed past me into the apartment without answering. Your mother was worried sick. You should have agreed to meet us immediately. My mother followed him in, her eyes darting around my space with a mixture of curiosity and something else. Assessment. She was assessing my apartment. This is really nice, Madison, she commented, running her hand along my kitchen counter. So much space for just one person. The comment carried an undercurrent that made me uneasy. Thank you, I managed. Would you like some coffee or tea? My father had already made himself comfortable on my couch, looking out the large windows at the park view. Must cost a fortune, this place. Prime location. I have a good job, and I saved carefully, I replied, the defensiveness creeping into my voice despite my efforts. For the next 20 minutes, conversation circled around superficial topics. My mother asked about my work with the detached interest of someone making polite conversation with a stranger. My father commented repeatedly on various features of the apartment, each observation punctuated with musings about the likely cost. Finally, I set down my tea mug. You said there was an emergency with Tyler. What is going on? The atmosphere in the room shifted immediately. My mother's face crumpled, while my father leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Your brother owes some very dangerous people $75,000, my father stated bluntly. They have threatened to break his legs. Or worse. I blinked, processing the number. $75,000? How did he get in so deep? It started small, my mother explained, twisted tissues in her hands. But he was trying to win back what he had lost, and things spiraled. The familiar story. The same justifications I had heard when they took my college fund. I am sorry to hear that, I said carefully. That sounds really serious. Has he looked into Gamblers Anonymous? Or maybe bankruptcy protection? My father waved his hand dismissively. Those are long-term solutions. We need money now. We have put our house on the market. But it will take months to sell in the current economy. A sick feeling began spreading through my stomach. I had a strong suspicion where this conversation was heading, but hoped desperately I was wrong. My mother reached out, touching my knee. Honey, we noticed how quickly you were able to get this lovely apartment, and in such a desirable area. I stared at her, the implication dawning with horrible clarity. You want me to sell my apartment? Not sell, my father corrected. Just take out a home equity loan. You must have built up some equity already. And with your good credit score, you could easily qualify for $75,000. The audacity stunned me into momentary silence. When I found my voice, it emerged calmer than I felt. I just bought this place 6 months ago. There is barely any equity built up yet. Then a second mortgage, my father pressed. With your salary, the banks would approve it. I shook my head, disbelief giving way to anger. No, absolutely not. I will not put my financial security at risk for Tyler's gambling debts. My father's expression hardened. This is not just about money, Madison. Your brother could be seriously hurt. I understand that, I countered, and I sympathize. But there must be other solutions besides me risking my home. What other solutions? My mother cried. We have already gone through our retirement savings from the last time. Last time? I echoed. You mean when you took my college fund? That was different, my father snapped. You were just a teenager then. Now you are an adult with assets. Assets I earned entirely on my own. After you took my college money, I pointed out, the old hurt rising fresh. Do not be so dramatic. He scoffed. It was family money anyway. The phrase ignited something inside me. Family money? I repeated. Is that what you called it when I worked 3 jobs to save it? When Grandma Catherine contributed to it specifically for my education. Your grandmother would want us to protect Tyler, my mother insisted. She would understand family comes first. The invocation of Grandma Catherine was the final straw. No, she would not. She believed in consequences and personal responsibility. Something Tyler has never faced because you both keep bailing him out. My father stood abruptly, his face flushed with anger. A single woman does not need all this space anyway, he declared, gesturing around my carefully furnished apartment. You could easily downsize to something more practical and help your family with the difference. The sexism layered on top of the entitlement left me speechless. My mother seized the opportunity of my silence. Madison, we are not asking forever. Just until we sell the house. Then we will pay you back every penny, I promise. The same promise they had made about my college fund, never fulfilled. I shook my head again. I am sorry about Tyler's situation, truly. But I cannot and will not risk my financial security or my home. You would let your brother suffer when you have the means to help? My mother asked, tears welling in her eyes. What kind of person have you become? The kind who learned from experience, I thought, but did not say. Instead, I stood up, signaling the end of the conversation. I can help Tyler find resources for gambling addiction. I can help him create a repayment plan. But I will not give him money that enables his addiction to continue. My father's face darkened as he moved toward the door. Think about it, Madison. Think hard about what family really means. We will come back tomorrow for your answer. As they left, the weight of their expectations and manipulation hung heavy in my apartment, tainting the space that had been my sanctuary. For the first time since moving in, I felt unsafe in my own home, as if my hard-won independence had become a target. The following evening, my parents returned as threatened. This time, they brought Tyler with them. I had not seen my brother in nearly a year, and the change in his appearance shocked me. His normally athletic frame had thinned considerably, dark circles underscored his bloodshot eyes, and he had the jittery, constantly moving energy of someone under immense stress. Madison, he said as I opened the door, offering a quick, awkward hug that felt performative rather than genuine. Thanks for seeing us. I did not invite you, I thought, but stepped aside to let them enter. My apartment, my sanctuary, once again invaded by the family dynamics I had worked so hard to escape. Tyler wandered around my living room, picking up and setting down decorative items with the restless energy of a caged animal. Wow, nice place, sis. Really nice. Something in his tone carried envy rather than admiration. My father cleared his throat meaningfully, and Tyler's wandering came to an abrupt halt. Look, Madison, I am really sorry about all this. He began, in what was clearly a rehearsed speech. I never meant for things to get so out of control. I just had a streak of bad luck, and then I was trying to win it back. You know how it goes. No, Tyler, I do not know how it goes, I replied evenly. I have never gambled away money I did not have. He flinched, glancing toward our parents as if seeking rescue. My mother stepped in immediately. Madison, please. Your brother is trying to apologize. I noticed he has not actually said he is sorry, just that he is sorry about the situation, I pointed out. There is a difference. Tyler ran his hands through his disheveled hair. Fine, I am sorry. Really sorry. I messed up. Is that what you want to hear? What I want to hear is your plan for addressing your gambling addiction and paying back what you owe without involving my finances, I stated clearly. My father snorted. Where is he supposed to get $75,000? You know he works at that warehouse for barely above minimum wage. This revelation surprised me. The last update I had received claimed Tyler had a promising position at a tech startup. Another lie, or perhaps another job lost. And whose fault is that? I asked. Tyler has had every advantage, every opportunity, every second chance. I had to put myself through school after you took my college fund for his first gambling debt. How many times has this happened since then? A heavy silence fell over the room. Tyler looked at the floor. My mother twisted her wedding ring nervously. This is the 5th time, my father finally admitted, his voice low. But never for this much before. The 5th time. The knowledge hit me like a physical blow. 5th. Not 2nd, as I had believed. While I had been working multiple jobs, putting myself through school, building my career from nothing, they had bailed Tyler out 4 more times. And every time, you just give him money? I asked, incredulous. No consequences? No requirements for treatment? We tried getting him into a program once, my mother defended weakly. But he said it was not helpful. Tyler at least had the grace to look ashamed. I tried, sis. Those groups are depressing. All those losers talking about how they hit rock bottom. Yet here you are, I observed coldly. Asking our parents to sell their house and me to mortgage my future. Sounds like rock bottom to me. You do not understand, my father interjected, his voice rising. These are not nice people he owes money to. They have made threats. Real threats. Then he should go to the police, I suggested. Tyler laughed bitterly. Yeah, great idea. Snitch on loan sharks. That will end well. So your solution is to drain our parents' retirement and my financial security? I challenged. And then what happens when you gamble that away too? Where does it end? My mother began to cry in earnest now, her shoulders shaking. Please, Madison. We are not asking for charity. Just a loan. We will pay you back as soon as we sell the house. Like you paid back my college fund? I asked quietly. That was different, my father snapped. You were living under our roof. We supported you for 18 years. And I have been on my own since then, I reminded him. Everything I have, I earned myself. Without help from any of you. Tyler threw up his hands in frustration. Great, so you're going to let me get my legs broken because you're bitter about some college money from a decade ago? His dismissal of what had been a life-altering betrayal ignited something in me. Some college money? That was my future you gambled away, Tyler. And now you want to take my present too? My home? Family helps family. My mother repeated her familiar refrain through tears. What would your grandmother say? That was the final straw. My voice shook with barely controlled rage. Grandma Catherine would be horrified that you are still enabling Tyler after all these years. She believed in consequences. She valued hard work and responsibility. Do not invoke her name to manipulate me. My father stood, looming over me in a posture I recognized from childhood disagreements. His attempt at physical intimidation. We have already looked into it, Madison. With your income and the value of this property, you could easily get a home equity loan. The money would be available within days. The presumption that they had investigated my financial options without my knowledge or consent was stunning. You had no right, I said quietly, dangerously. No right to look into my finances or make plans for my property. We had every right, he countered. We are your parents. And your brother needs this help. I turned to face all three of them. Something solidifying inside me. Years of hurt, resentment, and forced self-sufficiency crystallized into a clarity I had never experienced before. I want all of you to leave. Now, I stated. My voice steady despite the emotions churning inside. Madison, be reasonable, my mother pleaded. I am being reasonable. More reasonable than any of you deserve, I replied. I will not discuss this further tonight. Please leave. My father's face darkened with anger. If you turn your back on your brother now, do not expect us to be there when you need something. I almost laughed at the irony. When had they ever been there when I needed something? Are you threatening to disown me because I won't give Tyler $75,000? I asked incredulously. I am saying family loyalty works both ways, he replied stiffly. I walked to the door and held it open. Tyler slunk out first, avoiding my gaze. My mother followed, still crying quietly. My father paused at the threshold. We will give you some time to think about it, he said, as if granting a generous concession. But Tyler needs an answer by the end of the week. These people will not wait longer. I closed the door behind them without responding, then leaned against it, trembling with adrenaline and emotion. The sanctuary of my apartment now felt violated, their presence lingering like a stain. I slid down to sit on the floor, hugging my knees to my chest, and finally allowed myself to cry. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. My night had been sleepless, filled with replaying conversations and imagining scenarios. By dawn, anger had given way to a cold, clear determination. This cycle of manipulation and enabling had to end, and I seemed to be the only one willing to break it. My first call was to Stephanie. With no family drama of her own, she had always provided an outside perspective that helped me see the dysfunction more clearly. They actually expected you to mortgage your apartment? She asked, disbelief evident in her voice. After taking your college fund? The audacity is breathtaking. Her validation helped strengthen my resolve. I do not want to abandon Tyler to dangerous people, I admitted. But giving him money has never solved anything long-term. Stephanie was quiet for a moment. What if you offered actual help instead of cash? The kind of help that might actually address the real problem? The idea took root immediately. After ending the call, I spent the morning researching gambling addiction treatment centers, financial counseling services, and support groups for families of addicts. I created a document with resources, including several that offered sliding scale fees and payment plans. Next, I called a financial advisor I had consulted when purchasing my apartment. Explaining the situation in broad strokes, I asked about protecting my assets from potential family claims. Unfortunately, this happens more often than you might think, she told me. Family financial entanglement can be complicated, but there are ways to clearly establish boundaries. She recommended documenting the history of financial interactions, including the college fund situation, and having a formal letter drafted that clearly stated my position on future financial assistance. She also suggested a consultation with a family therapist to help navigate the emotional aspects. Following her advice, I scheduled an appointment with Dr. Laurel Hayes, a therapist specializing in family dynamics and addiction issues. The earliest available slot was 3 days away. But even making the appointment felt like a concrete step forward. The next phase was more difficult. I began compiling evidence of the pattern of enabling that had characterized our family for years. Online public record searches revealed 2 bankruptcies under Tyler's name that I had never been told about. Court records showed a DUI from 3 years ago and a dismissed charge for check fraud. The picture emerging was far worse than I had imagined. I created a spreadsheet documenting my own financial journey since high school graduation. Every job, every scholarship application, every night class, every promotion. Alongside this timeline, I noted what I knew of Tyler's parallel journey, with its pattern of crises and bailouts. From my personal records, I retrieved bank statements showing the withdrawal of my college fund, calculating what that money would have been worth today if invested in an education rather than disappeared into gambling debts. The figure was sobering. With standard returns, that $20,000 could have grown to nearly $35,000 by now. The most painful part was reviewing old emails and text messages from my parents over the years. Reading them chronologically revealed a pattern I had never fully acknowledged. Messages from them almost exclusively fell into 3 categories: requests for help with Tyler, criticism of my choices, or superficial check-ins that quickly redirected to Tyler's latest situation. After 2 days of intensive documentation and research, I had compiled a comprehensive folder. It contained the timeline of my self-sufficiency alongside Tyler's repeated bailouts, bank records proving the theft of my college fund, public records of Tyler's legal and financial troubles, a list of time treatment resources, a financial analysis of the enabling pattern and its long-term costs, a formal letter professionally drafted with the help of my financial advisor stating my position. I would support recovery efforts, but would not provide money directly. The final element was the most difficult to write. A personal letter expressing my feelings about the family dynamic and my decision to break the cycle. I wrote and rewrote it multiple times, struggling to balance honesty with compassion. Dr. Hayes helped me refine it during our session, encouraging me to use I statements rather than accusations while still clearly expressing my boundaries. I am choosing to love our family enough to stop participating in the patterns that hurt us all, I wrote in the final version. True support means offering help that leads to healing, not temporary fixes that enable continued destruction. I placed all the documents in a professional portfolio with the treatment center information on top, followed by my personal letter. The public records and financial analysis were included as reference material supporting my decision. The portfolio complete, I placed it in a large envelope and steeled myself for the confrontation to come. My parents had been calling and texting regularly, alternating between guilt trips, anger, and appeals to family loyalty. I had responded only once, telling them I was working on a solution and would contact them when ready. Now, with the envelope in hand and a clear plan in place, I felt a strange calm. For the first time in my life, I was not reacting to my family's chaos, but responding with intentional boundaries. Whatever happened next, I would face it from a position of clarity and strength rather than guilt and obligation. A week after their ultimatum, my parents and Tyler returned to my apartment as I had requested. The intervening days had given me time to prepare not just the documentation, but also myself emotionally. Sessions with Dr. Hayes had helped me anticipate their likely reactions and plan my responses. When I opened the door, their expressions revealed their assumptions. My mother looked hopeful, my father satisfied, and Tyler relieved. They believed I had capitulated. That family pressure had worked as it always had. "Thank you for agreeing to help, Madison," my mother said as they settled onto my couch. I knew you would do the right thing. I remained standing, the envelope on the coffee table between us. I have thought a lot about what the right thing truly is, I began carefully. About what real help looks like in this situation. My father glanced at the envelope. Is that the loan paperwork? How soon can the funds be available? This is not loan paperwork, I replied evenly. But it is a form of help. The kind I believe will actually make a difference. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Look, I appreciate whatever this is, but those guys are not going to wait much longer. They want cash, not whatever self-help stuff you have there. I met his eyes directly. I love you, Tyler. You're my brother, and despite everything, I want you to be okay. But I have realized that giving you money has never made you okay. It has just postponed the inevitable and made the consequences worse each time. My father reached for the envelope. Enough philosophizing. What is this? He opened it roughly, pulling out the neatly organized portfolio. His expression shifted from impatience to confusion as he flipped through the first few pages. The color drained from his face as he reached the financial analysis and public records. What is this? He repeated, his voice now strangled. My mother leaned over to see what had caused his reaction. What is it, Daniel? I sat down across from them, my posture intentionally open but firm. That is a complete accounting of our family's pattern of enabling Tyler's addiction. The first section outlines treatment options I am willing to help arrange and support, including a highly rated residential program that can take him as early as next week. Tyler snatched the portfolio from my father's hands, frantically flipping through pages. His face cycled through emotions, confusion, embarrassment, anger, and finally, a flicker of shame. You dug up all my legal stuff? He asked, voice cracking. And put it in a report? What the hell, Madison? I kept my voice gentle but firm. I needed to understand the full picture, Tyler. I had no idea things had gotten this bad. The bankruptcies, the fraud charge, the DUI. No one ever told me. My mother had begun crying silently, her hand over her mouth as she peered at the pages. That residential program costs $20,000, she whispered. Yes, I confirmed. And I am willing to pay for it directly to the facility. Not to Tyler, not to you. To professionals who can actually help him recover. My father's initial shock was hardening into defensive anger. So you will spend money on some fancy rehab but won't help with the actual debt? That does not solve the immediate problem. I held his gaze steadily. The debt is a symptom, not the cause. Paying it off just restarts the cycle. The records show that clearly. 5 bailouts in 10 years, each one larger than the last. You had no right to investigate our finances, he blustered, though his voice lacked conviction. I did not investigate your finances. I clarified. Everything in that portfolio is either from public records anyone can access or from my own personal financial history, including the calculation of what my stolen college fund would be worth today. We did not steal anything, my mother protested weakly. We were protecting Tyler. I turned to her gently. Mom, taking my money without permission is theft, regardless of the reason. I have included the bank records showing the withdrawal, which happened without my knowledge or consent. Tyler had gone very quiet, still staring at the pages. You calculated all of this? He finally asked. The total amount they have given me over the years? Yes, I answered simply. It comes to just over $250,000, including the college fund and what they have told me about remortgaging their house. His face paled. That much? And what do you have to show for it? I asked quietly. Not accusingly, but as a genuine question. He looked around my apartment, at the evidence of my carefully built life, and for the first time, I saw real understanding in his eyes. Nothing, he admitted, his voice barely audible. I have nothing. My father tried to regain control of the conversation. This is all very nice, Madison. But philosophical discussions will not stop these people from hurting Tyler. We need cash, not therapy appointments. I reached for the portfolio and turned to a specific page. This section addresses the immediate debt. I have included information on filing a police report about the threats, which is necessary regardless of how the debt is handled. I have also outlined bankruptcy options that could address the debt legally. My mother shook her head frantically. The police cannot get involved. It would make everything worse. Worse than sacrificing your retirement and my financial security? I challenged gently. The cycle has to stop somewhere, Mom. Paying them off has never been a permanent solution. A heavy silence fell over the room. My father stared at the pages, the fight seeming to drain from him as the reality of the documented pattern sank in. My mother continued to cry quietly. Tyler sat hunched forward, elbows on his knees, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. I cannot do this anymore, he said suddenly, his voice cracking. All of it. The gambling. The lying. Watching you all tear yourselves apart because of me. It was the first genuinely vulnerable thing I had heard from my brother in years. Not a performance of remorse designed to elicit help, but a moment of real clarity. I reached across the coffee table and took his hand. You do not have to do it anymore, Tyler. That is what I am trying to tell you. There is another way forward. But it is not an easy one. It means facing the consequences and doing the hard work of recovery. He squeezed my hand, tears forming in his eyes. I am scared, Maddie, he whispered, using my childhood nickname for the first time in over a decade. I know, I said softly. I would be too. But I will be there for you through the recovery process. Just not in ways that make the problem worse. My father cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable with the emotional turn. What exactly are you proposing, Madison? I laid it out clearly. I will pay directly for Tyler's treatment program. I will support him emotionally through recovery. I will help him develop financial literacy and job skills once he is stable. What I will not do is give him money directly or bail him out of the consequences of his addiction. And the current debt? My mother asked anxiously. He has legal options, I explained. Bankruptcy, payment plans, potentially even negotiation with creditors. But paying it off for him has never solved the underlying problem. The portfolio includes statistical information on addiction recovery showing that removing consequences often prolongs the addiction. My father rubbed his face wearily, suddenly looking much older. We just wanted to protect him, he said quietly. I know, Dad, I acknowledged. But sometimes protection becomes enabling. I have included some resources for parents of addicts as well. Support groups that might help you both navigate this too. The atmosphere in the room had transformed completely. The aggressive entitlement had given way to a fragile, tentative openness. No one was making demands anymore. Instead, we were finally having an honest conversation about the reality of our family dynamic. This is the last time, Tyler finally said, looking up with red-rimmed eyes. I mean it. Whether I take the treatment offer or not, I am not asking any of you for money again. I cannot keep doing this to our family. My mother reached for him, wrapping her arms around his shoulders. We will figure it out together, she whispered. My father sat silently, still processing. When he finally spoke, his voice was subdued. You really thought all this through, he observed, gesturing to the portfolio. I have had years to think about it, I replied simply. Years of watching the same pattern repeat while building my own life from scratch. He nodded slowly, a flicker of something like respect crossing his face. Perhaps for the first time, he was seeing me not as his daughter to be directed, but as an adult with valid perspectives. We will need time to consider all this, he said finally. I nodded. The treatment center can hold the spot for 72 hours. After that, they will need a commitment and deposit. The ultimatum I offered was gentle but clear, real help instead of money. Or no involvement from me at all. The choice was theirs, but either way, I would no longer participate in the cycle of enabling that had defined our family for too long. As they prepared to leave, Tyler hung back, letting our parents walk ahead to the elevator. When we were alone, he turned to me, his expression raw with emotion. Did you mean it? About helping me through recovery? Even after everything? I meant every word, I assured him. I want you to get better, Tyler. Really better. Not just temporarily out of crisis. He hugged me then, an awkward but genuine embrace. Thank you, he whispered, for not giving up on me completely. As I closed the door behind them, I felt lighter than I had in years. Regardless of what they decided, I had spoken my truth and established clear boundaries. The outcome was no longer my responsibility to manage. For the first time since my college fund disappeared, I felt truly free from the weight of family obligation and guilt. The 3 days following our confrontation passed in tense silence. I had made my position clear and would not chase them for a decision. On the evening of the third day, as I was preparing to contact the treatment center to release the provisional spot I had arranged, my phone rang. Tyler's name appeared on the screen. "I will do it," he said when I answered. His voice steadier than I had heard it in years. "The treatment program. I want to try." Relief washed over me, though I tempered my expectations. This was just the first step of many. "Are Mom and Dad on board?" I asked. He hesitated. "Dad is still angry, but he is driving me to the center tomorrow. Mom is just crying a lot, but she packed my bags." We discussed the logistics briefly. I had already arranged to pay the deposit directly to the facility, as promised. Tyler sounded nervous, but determined, asking practical questions about what he could bring and how the program worked. The following day, I met them at the treatment center, a converted Victorian house set on several acres of landscaped grounds. My father remained in the car, refusing to participate in the intake process. My mother fussed over Tyler's belongings, her anxiety manifesting as hyperactivity. The intake counselor, a woman named Rachel with a calm, matter-of-fact demeanor, walked us through the program expectations. 30 days inpatient, followed by intensive outpatient therapy and support groups. Family participation was encouraged but not required. When the time came for goodbyes, my mother clung to Tyler, sobbing. I promised to call her later with updates, gently extracting her so the process could continue. Tyler and I had a moment alone before he followed Rachel inside. "I am proud of you for doing this," I told him sincerely. He gave a nervous laugh. "Do not be proud yet. I have not actually done anything. You made the choice," I pointed out. "That is already more than before." He nodded, then looked at me seriously. "I read your letter. The personal one in the portfolio. About breaking cycles and stuff. It made me think a lot." I squeezed his hand. "One day at a time, right?" With one last nod, he turned and walked through the doors, carrying his single duffel bag. I watched until he disappeared from view, then returned to where our parents waited. The first week was the hardest. My father refused to discuss the situation at all, while my mother called me multiple times daily for reassurance. I maintained boundaries around these calls, limiting them to scheduled times and redirecting her when she slipped into enabling language. Tyler was allowed his first phone call home after 10 days. He sounded tired, but clearer than I had heard him in years. "The counselors are having me work through how it all started," he told me. "Going back to high school and that first poker game with Dad's friends." This detail, never shared with me before, explained so much about the family dynamics. Our father had unwittingly introduced Tyler to gambling, then spent years trying to fix the resulting addiction. The guilt underlying his anger suddenly made more sense. After 3 weeks, we were invited to a family therapy session at the treatment center. My father initially refused, but eventually agreed under pressure from my mother. The session was tense but productive, with the therapist skillfully guiding us through honest conversation about patterns of enabling and resentment. "I never really understood how it affected you, Madison," my mother admitted during one exchange. "We were so focused on Tyler's crises that we just assumed you were fine on your own." "I was not fine," I replied quietly. "I was abandoned." My father struggled more with these conversations, frequently becoming defensive or shutting down entirely. But even his resistance was a form of participation, and the therapist helped us see the pain behind his anger. When Tyler completed the 30-day program, he did not return to our parents' house as expected. Instead, he had arranged to move into a halfway house connected with the treatment center, where he would continue outpatient therapy while seeking employment. "I did not want to go back to the same environment right away," he explained when I visited him there. "Too many old patterns." His insight surprised and moved me. For the first time, I allowed myself to hope that real change might be possible. The following months brought gradual, imperfect progress. Tyler found work at a local hardware store, a humble position compared to the careers he had once envisioned for himself, but one he approached with newfound seriousness. He attended Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 times weekly and maintained regular therapy appointments. My parents sold their house as planned, but rather than using the proceeds to pay off Tyler's gambling debts, they worked with a financial advisor to restructure their retirement plan. Tyler's debt situation was addressed through a combination of bankruptcy protection and a modest payment plan he managed from his own earnings. Our first family dinner, 6 months after the confrontation in my apartment, was awkward but peaceful. We gathered at a neutral restaurant, each of us making conscious efforts to establish new patterns of interaction. My father asked about my recent promotion at work, the first time he had shown genuine interest in my career. My mother managed to get through the entire meal without trying to solve any of Tyler's problems. Tyler himself spoke honestly about his struggles and small victories in recovery. As my apartment regained its status as sanctuary rather than battleground, I found myself inviting Stephanie over more often. Our friendship had deepened through the family crisis, her unwavering support providing an anchor when everything else felt uncertain. With the constant drain of family drama reduced, I found new energy for professional growth. My marketing firm assigned me to lead a major campaign for a national client, a vote of confidence that validated years of dedicated work. The project's success led to another promotion and the opportunity to build my own team. 9 months after our confrontation, Tyler reached his first significant sobriety milestone. I attended the ceremony where he received his chip, watching with genuine pride as he spoke briefly about his journey. Afterward, he pulled me aside. "I never thanked you properly," he said, looking me in the eye, "for not giving me the money that day." I smiled. "Would you believe me if I said it was harder than giving in would have been?" He nodded. "Yeah, actually, I would." Enabling is the easy path for everyone involved. Standing your ground was the harder choice. His insight reflected how far he had come. The entitled brother who had demanded my financial sacrifice had been replaced by someone capable of self-reflection and gratitude. The healing in our family remains a work in progress. My father still struggles with old patterns, occasionally slipping into criticism or attempting to control situations. My mother still worries excessively about Tyler, though she has learned to express this concern more appropriately. Tyler himself has had difficult days where the pull of addiction feels overwhelming, but so far, he has maintained his recovery one day at a time. As for me, I have found a new balance. Setting boundaries does not mean cutting off love or support. It means offering the kind of help that leads to growth rather than dependence. My apartment, once a symbol of independence achieved despite family obstacles, has become something more. A testament to the courage required to break generational patterns of dysfunction. Breaking cycles is never easy. It requires facing uncomfortable truths and weathering the resistance of those who benefit from the status quo. But the peace that comes from authentic relationships built on mutual respect rather than obligation is worth every difficult conversation and painful realization. If you are facing similar family patterns of enabling or emotional manipulation, know that you are not alone. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is necessary for everyone's well-being. The journey may be difficult, but the freedom waiting on the other side is worth fighting for. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between what your family wanted and what you knew was right? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that standing firm in their boundaries is an act of courage, not selfishness. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength for your own.